Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janadhanjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gaur Premanande. Is that your harmonium or ours? It was here?
Yeah, it was here.
Can you lift up the hood just for a second? Are some of the keys bent? They look like they're loose. Is it okay, the keyboard?
I would get it.
Temple harmonians take a beating, mostly because of kids. It takes a kid 5 seconds to break a harmonium.
We got this one in Denver. It's like so solid.
Okay, we'll take one. Just tell us where to get it. I'll pick it up. May I have a Bhagavatam, please? Yeah, which Bhagavatam? A 5th canto, please. Thank you. Did any shlokas stick in your head when we were chanting? We chanted a few. Any ones that you liked? Give him a microphone. When you talk, you have to use a microphone because it's being broadcast and all the other devotees can hear it.
Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaramachintya Gunasvarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That the eyes of the great sages who are absorbed in thinking of Krishna are anointed with the salve of love, and they're able to view the Lord on the television of their heart. I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, the first person.
And why do you like that verse?
Because it talks about how those who are absorbed in thought of Krishna, their eyes are anointed with the salve of love. So that's an interesting concept for me, that one's eyes would be anointed with the salve of love.
Nice. Thank you. Samiprash.
Bhagavad Gita 5:23. Shaknotiva yasodhong Shaknoti haiva yasodhong prak sharira vimokshanat kama krothodpavang vegang sayukta sasukhi naraha. That one who's able to tolerate the pushings of lust and anger before giving up the body is a happy person in this world.
There's Sukhinara?
Sukhinara.
Okay. Why do you like that verse?
Because it's really practical. Everyone wants to be happy, and everyone's dealing with the crazy mind.
Thank you very much. Nice. A good idea to get in a regular daily practice of singing at least the basic shlokas that our Prabhupada has given us. And if you sing them every day or listen to them every day, then you'll start to learn all the shlokas, and then you can go deeply within them. It's good for a lot of reasons. One reason is for purification, and the other is for reference. You'll know where to find them, and you'll know how to quote them if you need them. Today I'm reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18. The residents of Jambudweep offer prayers. And the text is number 23. Satvam mamapyachuta shirshni vanditam karambujam yet twad adhais sattvatam. Bibharshimam lakshma varena mayaya. Ka ishvarasye hitum uhitum. Ka ishvarasye hitam uhitum viburiti. Saha, that. Tvam, you. Mama, of me. Api, also. Achuta, O infallible one. Shirshni, on the head. Vanditam, worshipped. Karna ambujam, your lotus hand. Yat, which. Twat, by you. Adhai, placed. Shatvatam, on the head of the devotees. Bibarshi, you maintain. Mam, me. Lakshma, as an insignia on your chest. Varenya, O worshipable one. Mayaya, with deceit. Kaha, who? Ishvarasya, of the supremely powerful controller. Ihitam, the desires. Uhitam, to understand by reason and argument. Vibhuhu, is able. Iti, thus. Translation, O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives. Who's speaking? How do you know?
Also because it says that she's mentioning that you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest. So that's Lakshmi.
Very good. Lakshmi is speaking. And so, without looking up there, what did she just say? What did she say?
Place your hand on my head, although you are having me on your chest.
Okay. Anything else? You all said the same thing. You want to hear it again, what Lakshmi is saying to the Lord? O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives. What did she say?
She wants the benediction. She says, although she has the insignia that he has, but she also wants the benediction that he has given to his pure devotees.
Devotees. Nice, Cresswell. Thanks. What else? Yes, Bhakta Mike.
She's saying that his lotus palm is the source of all benediction, and that she would like it placed on his head, on her head.
Nice.
No one can understand Supreme Personality's motives.
Yeah, no one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead's motives. Yeah.
It's showing that how Krishna loves his devotee so much by this. Like Lakshmi herself is telling that who is so close to Lord, but Lord loves devotees is directly, like it's state evidence. Who is very close to devotees is telling directly that
He loves his devotees. Yes, another one, Mike? Okay. After Brahma offered his prayers to Lord Krishna, the Lord didn't say anything. Brahma couldn't understand what he was thinking because he's so grave. All those prayers bowing down, and Krishna just didn't say a word. And after Indra had bombed Vrindavan with ice and rain, and he came to apologize, Krishna, in a secret place, he apologized to him, said, I hope I haven't caused you any distress. It's very hard to understand the motives of the Lord. I'll read it again. O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives. Can I have the Akrura entering Vrindavan, and also the Sarta Darshani? Do we have it? You should order it today if you can. Purport. In many places, the Shastras describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being more inclined toward his devotees than toward his wife, who always remains on his chest. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 14, 15, I'll take this too. 11, 14, 15 while you're over there. Na tata me priyatama atmayonir na shankaraha na cha sankarshano na shrir naivatma cha yata bhavan. Here Krishna plainly says that his devotees are more dear to him than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the original cause of the creation, the goddess of fortune, and even his own self. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 9, 20, we'll take that too, 10, 9, 20, Shukadev Goswami says, Nemam varinsho na pavo Nashir apyanga sangshaya na prasadam libere gopi yet tat prapya vimuktidat. The Supreme Lord, who can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy toward the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60, we'll take that too. Nayam Shriyonga Unitana Rate Prasada Swaryoshitam Nalina Ganda Rucham Kutonya Rasotsave Sya Bujadanda Grihit Kanta Labdhashisham Yad Udagad Vrajasundarinam. The gopis received benedictions from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. In the rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate gopis by placing his arms on their shoulders and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the gopis who received the causeless mercy of the Lord. So I'm just going to look at a few of these verses more carefully before I go into the next part of the purport. 11, 14, 15. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Here it is, 11, 14, 15. Natata me priyatama Atmayonir na shankaraha Nacha sankarshana na shrir Naivatma cha yata bhavan. Na, not, tata, in the same way, me, to me, priyatamaha, most dear, Atmayoni, Lord Brahma, who is born from my body. na, nor, Shankaraha, Lord Shiva, na, nor, cha, also, Sankarshanaha. My direct expansion, Lord Sankarshana, na, nor, Shri, the goddess of fortune, na, nor, eva, certainly, Atma, my own self as the deity, cha, also, yata, as much as, bhavan, you. Translation, my dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshana, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self were as dear to me as you. Purport. The Lord has described in the previous verses the unalloyed love of his pure devotees for him, and now the Lord describes his love for his devotees. Atma Yoni means Lord Brahma, who is directly born from the Lord's body. Lord Shiva always gives great pleasure to Lord Krishna by his constant meditation upon him, and Sankarshana or Balaram is the Lord's brother in Krishna Lila. The goddess of fortune is the Lord's wife, and the word Atma here indicates the Lord's own self as the deity. None of these personalities, even the Lord's own self, are as dear to him as his pure devotee Uddhava, and a Kinchana devotee of the Lord. Someone say a verse that has the word Akinchana in it. Mike.
Janmaishvaya Shuddha Shri Viredamaramata Puman Naivarhatavata Tumvayatamakinchana Gochara. That only those that are akinchana, or without anything, are capable of attaining Krishna, or actually fully worshiping Krishna.
Yeah, they can worship with sincere feeling. Nice. Akinchana Gochara. Krishna is the property of the materially impoverished. Like at the beginning of Devahuti's prayer, she said, I'm sick and tired of the material senses and their agitation. Now I'm ready to surrender. That's the simple beginning to devotional service. One's desire to surrender to Krishna and give up false designations. Srila Madhvacharya cites from Vedic literature the example that a gentleman sometimes neglects his own interest and that of his children to give charity to a poor beggar. Similarly, the Lord gives preferences to a helpless devotee who depends completely on his mercy. The only way to obtain the Lord's mercy is through his causeless love, and the Lord is most lovingly inclined towards those devotees who are dependent on him. Just as ordinary mothers and fathers worry more about their helpless children than about those who are self-sufficient. Thus, even if one lacks any material qualification, one should simply depend upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any other interest, and surely one will achieve the highest perfection of life. And then we read in the purport, Nimam Varinsho Nabhavo, which is from 10.9.20. This verse says, oh yes, 10.9.20. Nimam Varinsho Nabhavo Nashir Apyanga Sangshaya Prasadam Lebare Gopi Yat Tat Prapya Vimukti Dat Na, not, Imam, this exalted position. Varinshaha, Lord Brahma. Na, nor, Bhava, Lord Shiva. Na, nor, Shri, the goddess of fortune. Api, indeed, Anga Sangshaya, although she is always the better half of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prasadam, mercy. Lebire, obtained. Gopi, Mother Yashoda. Yat Tat, as that which prapya, obtained, vimuktidat, from Krishna who gives deliverance from this material world. Translation, neither Lord Brahma nor Lord Shiva nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received my mother Yashoda. Purport. This is a comparative study between Mother Yashoda and other devotees of the Lord, as stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 5:142, Ekale Ishvar Krishna Arsha Britta. The only Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his servants. Krishna has the transcendental quality of Britya Vashyata, becoming subordinate to his Britya, or servant. Someone quote a verse besides Madhukari that indicates that that the Lord becomes a servant or conquered by his devotees. Just say where it is from. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Yayata mam prapadyante, tamstataiva bhajam yaham. I can't remember the rest.
Mama Vartmanuvartante.
Vartmanuvartante.
Manusha Partha Sarvasha.
Manusha Partha Sarvasha.
Tell what the verse means and then defend your choice of verses, please.
Well, the verse, Krishna is saying that however my devotee surrenders, I reciprocate accordingly. And the second part of I can't remember whoever follow all paths he's saying all paths are essentially his path. Anyway, the reason why I was thinking that verse substantiates that point is because Krishna's tying himself to that promise that if anybody surrenders to him, he'll reciprocate accordingly. So it seems like it's relative.
Pretty good. I like the theory. Okay, go ahead. Sundar.
There is a verse, Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param. I'm forgetting the third.
Tasmat Parataram Devi.
Tasmat Parataram Devi.
Tadiyanam
Samacharam. Right. So this is Lord Shiva telling Mother Parvati that that one who claims to be the worshipper of Vishnu or Krishna is actually worshipping the devotees of the Lord is better than directly worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna.
And yeah, the Tadiya is the best. That those things in relationship with the Lord. Worship of Lord Vishnu is the highest, but higher than worshiping Lord Vishnu is worshiping those things that are dear to Lord Krishna. And the devotee is the most dear to Lord Krishna. Therefore it is said that, so sometimes, why worship the devotee? Why is it so much emphasis in the Shastra? Vaishnavism means you place yourself under the shelter of a Vaishnava, you worship a Vaishnava. And one of the reasons is that Krishna is so dear to his devotees, the devotees are so dear to him, he wants to serve them. He becomes subordinate to his servants, actually. But the servants won't take anything from Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj was offered so many times, Lord Nrsimhadev, take a benediction. No, thank you. I'm not a merchant. I didn't come here to take something. and we see over and over again the Lord offering to the devotees, but they won't take. So Krishna wants to serve his devotees, they won't take. So that's a problem. So if then somebody else worships the devotee, if somebody else gives to the devotee, then that fulfills Krishna's desire. That's why it's better to worship the devotee than it is to worship Krishna directly, because Krishna is most favorable towards the devotees. He loves his devotees more than himself, and he doesn't get an opportunity to serve his devotees. So if you serve that devotee, then Krishna becomes most pleased. You fulfill the innermost desire of Krishna. I see shloka books coming out, okay? Usually we have them lined up so you can use them. Go ahead. This is answering the question of giving a verse that shows that Krishna becomes subordinate to his devotees.
Narayan says in the 9th canto, chapter 4, verse 68, Sadhavo hridayang mahyang sadhunang hridayang twaham madanyatina jananti nahang tibyo managapi, that the pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them.
Substantiate.
Well, he's saying that, I guess it's kind of in context. He's saying that I can't actually forgive you for your offense to Maharaj Ambarish, because my pure devotees are completely dedicated to me, so I'm completely dedicated to them, and I can't do anything for you. I don't know anything but them, so they're my only concern. It's just in context. If you want to have forgiveness, you have to go to them. I'm not independent, in other words.
Okay, that's good. Good substantiation. Madhukari's going to, I'll bet, the 10th canto. Okay, Madhukari and then Pranahari.
Na sadhayati mam yogo, na sankyam dharma udhava, na svadhyastapastyago yata bhaktir mamurjita.
Good verse.
This is from the 11th canto, chapter 14, text 20. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation.
Verse number again?
11, 14, 20.
Sariyati mam yogo.
Sorry.
What is it?
Na sadhayati.
Na sariyati mam yogo. Na sankyam dharma udava.
Na
Na swadhyayasya
tapas
tapo
tyago.
tyago.
Yata
bhaktir mamorjita.
It's in the same chapter as the one you just read.
Yeah, beautiful verse. And that one substantiates also. Hey, keep a list. Are you keeping a list of all these? Collect them all. Okay, Pranahari Prabhu.
In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 17, Krishna says, Tesham gyani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi gyanino tyartam aham sacha mama priyaha. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. And then Krishna says in the next text, Udara sarva evaite jnani twatmaiva me matam astita sahiyuktatma mam evanutamam gatim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So these two verses illustrate that the devotee is very, the pure devotee is very dear to Krishna. Krishna says he is dear to me, and he considers such a devotee to be just like his own self, and thus he wants to render service to his own devotee.
Thank you. That was a good one. I didn't expect that one. Are you thinking 10th canto? Lord Brahma? Okay. Hold it. Let me see if anybody else knows the verse. There's a verse in Lord Brahma's prayers in which he very specifically says, you're out. He very specifically says that one should give up the process of mental speculation to understand God. One should engage one's body, mind, and words in serving the Lord. One should stay in one's position and hear about Krishna, for by doing so, blank. Do you know the verse? Okay, go ahead, Madhukari. It's in the 10th canto, 14th chapter.
Text 3.
Text 3.
Jnane
You got to hold that microphone right up to your mouth.
Jnane priyasam utapasya namanteva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan manobi prayasho jita jito pyasita istrilokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds.
Thank you very much. So Krishna's name is Ajita, means unconquerable, but he becomes Jita. He's conquered. The one who hears about Krishna and submissively renders service develops this love for Krishna, which is a product of the internal energy. This love for Krishna comes from Krishna's Swarup Shakti. And Krishna's controlled by his Swarup Shakti, by this love. So the Ajita becomes Jita. So we found some evidence that Krishna is so favorable towards his devotees that he considers them more dear than even his own self, and that he can be conquered by the love of his devotees. We've established that, haven't we? We have enough evidence for now. We can find more, but we'll take that for now. Yes, and a question coming from Ramananda Saka Prabhu.
The Krishna in one of the verses we read, Krishna stated that neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Goddess Lakshmi, or even his own expansion, the Adisesh, none of them are more, or even his own self, none of them are more dearer than Uddhava or his devotees. But they are also the personalities who he stated, they are also his devotees. And especially Lord Sesh, who can be better devotee than him, because he's constantly serving him, chanting his names. So why does he state that, makes that statement as if they are not his devotees and others are?
It's true that he's intimately attached to all of his devotees. But in the spiritual world, there's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. And we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the search for the devotee who has the most mercy by Narada Muni. And he starts off by meeting at Kumbh Mela. He sees this Brahmin come out and worship his Shalagam Shila completely in the mode of goodness. And then afterwards, he offers a prayer that whatever sukriti I've gained from doing your worship today, my Lord, I offer back to you. I don't want anything. Your devotional service. And Narada said, this devotee he's the best. He has received the most mercy. And he approaches that devotee, and that devotee says, I don't have any mercy. I'll show you, there's a king. He's worshiping the Lord with greater opulence. You go to see him. So Narada Muni visits him, and he says, not me, it's Indra. And Indra then points to Brahma, Brahma points to Shiva. Each one points to another devotee who's got more mercy and gives valid evidence why he's actually not favored by the Lord. And so the search ends in Vrindavan with the gopis whom Narada is directed towards finally, and he meets the gopis who have, as one says, achieved the most mercy and the most dear to the Lord. but then they say, we're insignificant. They feel themselves insignificant. So there are different moods and gradations, the way Krishna has appreciation for various devotees, that are the variety even within the oneness of his love for all his devotees.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now where was I? 5th canto. Did I read all the verses? Oh, now where's the 5th canto? Oh, it's right there. Did we read from 10:47:60? Okay, this is from 10:47:60. And we are going to feed you this morning. Soon. 10:47:60. Nayam Shriyongha U Nitana Rate Prasada Swarayoshitam Nalina Ganda Rucham Kutonya Rat Sotsave Sya Vujadanda Grihita Kanta Labdhashisham Ya Udagad Vrajavallabhinam. When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing even imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the lotus flower, and what to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to material estimation. Purport. The word meanings and translation for this verse are taken from Srila Prabhupada's English rendering of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 880. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments as follows: Lord Krishna, the best of all avatars, exists on the highest platform of purity and morality, and thus he always remained praiseworthy by all, even while accepting worldly criticism for his cow tending, wandering in the forest, taking meals with young monkeys, stealing yogurt, seducing other men's wives, and so on. Similarly, the gopis, who are constituted of the Lord's pleasure potency, achieve the highest standard of purity and auspiciousness, even in comparison to the goddesses of fortune, and thus the gopis are supremely glorious, even though they were criticized by worldly people, because they were mere cowherd women living in the forest and behaving in an apparently improper way. And now, I'm going on with the purport in the 5:18:24. I'm in the second half of the purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that no one can receive the real favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without following in the footsteps of the gopis. Even the goddess of fortune could not receive the same favor as the gopis, although she underwent severe austerities and penances for many years. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discusses this point with Vyankata in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who does he discuss it with? In which part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita? 9, 111 through 131. The Lord inquired from Vyankata, your worshipable goddess of fortune Lakshmi always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha, and for a long time accepted vows and regulated principles and performed unlimited austerities. Vyankata replied, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. They are very pleasing for Krishna's Shaktis. Since Krishna and Narayan are both the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna did not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. If she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking about this? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know there is no fault in the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter the rasa dance. We hear this from revealed scriptures. The authorities of Vedic knowledge met Lord Ramachandra in Dandakaranya, and by their penances and austerities they were allowed to enter into the rasa dance. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not get that opportunity? To this, Vyankatabhatta replied, I cannot enter into the mystery of this incident. I am an ordinary human living being. My intelligence is limited, and I am always disturbed. How can I understand the pastimes of the Supreme Lord? They are deeper than millions of oceans. Lord Chaitanya replied, Lord Krishna has a specific characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. By following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Rajaloka or Goloka Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, the inhabitants of that planet do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unaware that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the residents of Vrindavan like Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Devi, and the gopis treat Krishna as their beloved son or lover. Mother Yashoda accepts him as her son and sometimes binds him to a grinding mortar. Krishna's cowherd boyfriends think he is an ordinary boy and get up on his shoulders. In Goloka Vrindavan, no one has any desire other than to love Krishna. The conclusion is that one cannot associate with Krishna unless he has fully received the favor of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. Therefore, if one wants to be delivered by Krishna directly, he must take to the service of the residents of Vrindavan who are unalloyed devotees of the Lord. So this service to the residents of Vrindavan is mentioned in the Nectar of Instruction we read just earlier. That's the process. Tannama rupa charitari kirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyoja. Tishtan vraje tananuragi jananugami kalam nayed akilimitipadesha saram. The essence of all advice, Rupa Goswami says, is that one should nicely hear, chant, remember the Supreme Lord, and then gradually one will develop an attraction, anuragi, for a particular resident of Vrindavan, and then follow in the footsteps of that devotee very specifically. And in the Nectar Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's explained actually in the commentary by Jiva Goswami that we are to follow Rupa and Sanatan and their sadhaka dehas. They are residents of the spiritual world as manjaris, serving Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. However, they also in this life, in this world, they follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu told them, go to Vrindavan. And what did he tell them to do in Vrindavan? Excavate the holy places. Anything else? Scrutinize all the Vedic scriptures and then bring out, show the path, illuminate the path of bhakti. Did somebody else say something? Right. Yes. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipuno Shadharma Samstapako. They studied meticulously and then they wrote for the benefit of all the people to establish this sampradaya. And therefore, Jiva Goswami says that it's important that one follow in the footsteps of the sadhaka dehas of Rupa and Sanatan. That one can do by helping to spread the Sankirtan movement. This kind of work that Prabhupada gave us, of hearing and chanting, and then going about distributing books, chanting Harinam, so forth. This follows in the footsteps of Rupa and Sanatan, and is the practical way in this life, as we're sadhakas, to develop this attraction within the heart. And then actually, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya gives the instruction that the devotee is living in Vrindavan within his mind and heart, and externally is working as a sadhaka and performing the external acts of devotional service as were given to us by Rupa Goswami, because we're Rupanugas. We follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Questions or reflections so far? Reflection means one thing you heard so far that's stuck in your mind. Yes.
What was stuck in my mind is they said we're Rupanugas, we're servants of Rupa Goswami.
Yeah, we follow
Follow
the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Yeah. What else stuck? It's nice to be a Rupanuga. Yes. You got to use the microphone, otherwise you don't get counted in the Brihat Madanga.
I was just appreciating earlier how you were saying that I wrote it down even, that that we should serve Krishna's devotees because Krishna can't serve them, and therefore when you serve his devotees, then it fulfills the innermost desire of his heart. I thought that was really a deep point.
Nice. Good reflection. What else?
Maharaj, I like that the residents of Vrindavan, how elevated they are in our mind when we go to Vrindavan. We should have that mindset, because sometimes externally you may not comprehend that. So such constant reminder is very important. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that actually reminded me, I wanted to welcome Bhaktin Linda and Bhaktin Raven. Hare Krishna. Let's give a little more hand than that, though. They came all the way from Texas. That's not easy. In the section of the Srimad Bhagavatam describing Akura's entrance into Vrindavan, on the way there, did you bring me that book? It's here? Can you give it to me? Otherwise I'll be searching. He's meditating on how he's going to meet Krishna. And he's thinking about the hands of Krishna. Can you find that verse? Just this is the same here. He's thinking of the lotus hand of Krishna. And so there's a very beautiful section in this Bhagavatam description of Akura entering Vrindavan, where he's meditating on Krishna. He's thinking of his lotus hand and how he'll place it on his body, and therefore he'll achieve all benediction. And he remembers how various devotees have received benediction from the touch of Krishna's hand. What else? Other reflections? Yes, Sundara.
One was the conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Venkatapata that we read in the purport.
Yes.
How it's such secret knowledge is revealed at the highest form of worship that is worshipping Krishna in the mood of residents of Vrindavan is being revealed actually. by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And
yeah, this is what, were you finished?
yeah.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to reveal this, that there's the most intimate way of worshiping God. There's many different ways according to one's mood and approach. Itam satam brahma sukhana bhutya dasyam gatanam paridaivatena mayashitanam naradarakena sakam vrijaru krita punya punja. Shukadev Goswami notes that according to various devotees' approach, they see Krishna in different ways. That some, they see him as the Brahman, others they worship him in opulence, and those who are materialists, they just think he's an ordinary person. But the residents of Vrindavan, Sakam Vrajaru Krita Punya Punja, they're so fortunate that they're playing with Krishna on an equal level. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that he, for a long time, no one's understood or heard about this kind of devotion. Anarpita charim chirat karuneva tirna kalau. We chanted that verse earlier. That for a long time I've not taught this, or forever. I've not given this secret about the highest form of worship of the Lord. And also, we find in the Bhagavatamrita that Uttara intuits that there must be a place, because there are devotees that have this extremely intimate kind of love for Krishna. She says there must be a place where that's special to have this kind of worship. And therefore she asked her son, Parikshit Maharaj, after the Bhagavatam was spoken, there was some time, she asked him to give, not very much time though, to give a summary. And she said there must be a place for this kind of worship, because there are these devotees that have this very intimate love for Krishna. And Parikshit Maharaj likes the question very much. And then he gives a description of all the different realms of the universe, and then it culminates in this Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotees have this kind of devotion, which is that they just love Krishna. It's not obscured. Their love for him is not obscured by any kind of opulence. It's like when you have friends, the most intimate kind of friends are those where the opulence is all gone. And you can cut each other down if you want. You can make a joke at the other person's expense. I have friends like that, where I can say something derogatory at the other person's expense, and then we both laugh about it and really enjoy it. And I have like other godbrothers where I would hesitate to do that, because I think maybe that would cross the line. Even because that thought comes in my mind, it restricts me. There's still some formality there. But in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no more formality. It's all just out of love for Krishna. Nayam Sukapo Bhagavan Dehinam Gopikasuta Jnaninam Chatmabhutanam Yata Bhaktimatam Yata. Krishna says, no, that's not the right last line. What is the right last line? This is a famous verse from this section of Lord Chaitanya discussing with Vyankata, where he says, Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan Dehinam Gopikasuta Jnaninam Chatmabhutanam Yata Bhaktimatam. Anyway, find the last one. In this verse, it says that Krishna is not easily approached except by this kind of spontaneous devotion. Do we have any chairs? Put out some chairs in case anybody wants, just like 2 or 3 chairs. If anybody wants a chair, please sit up. Be comfortable. Yes, Cresswell, take a chair? Yeah, he'll take a chair. Main objective is not to sit on the floor. Main objective is to sit one way or the other. Put them in the back, because they block. There you go. Any other points? Reflections? Yes.
I also like that point when you said that although when Narada Muni found the gopis to be the highest devotees, their form of worship was the highest. They just didn't recognize that. They felt themselves very insignificant, and that's just so inconceivable to me.
Sure. And then sometimes there's ways in which it's possible someone might be in a particular group in devotional service, and then because they're getting some kind of good association, or they'll then feel privileged that we have higher information, and then they'll think, well, everybody else, they don't know anything. But this is contrary to the mood of advancement. Actually, as one becomes more advanced, one feels less qualified. You found it. What's the last line? Yata? Yata bhakti matam yaha. Iha, in this world. Okay. Yata bhakti matam iha. So how was the journey from Texas? What was good about it?
We got to come.
Any realizations on your journey? As Akura, we talked over the last couple of classes about Akura entering in Vrindavan. And as he's journeying there, he's thinking about the circumstance, and he's meditating on Krishna and so forth. So when we travel some kind of pilgrimage, go to a temple, go to see devotees, it has to have some special meaning to it. Any revelation you'd like to share about your journey? Any obstacles getting here?
Not really any obstacles. Just getting to be in the presence of my God brothers and God sisters and you was what was on my mind. And Krishna came through and provided that.
Nice.
So the plane ride was over 3 hours, but it just didn't seem like it. Krishna was very merciful.
Great. Raven?
Well, I'm here by the grace of Krishna and his devotees, and I was really sort of getting into my routine of settling back into Dallas in the community there. So I'm gratefully been ejected from where I was working and serving. So I'm glad to be here.
Nice. Great to see you. Hare Krishna. What else? Anything else you heard so far? Cresswell.
Well, actually, coming back to Krishna wants to give benediction to the pure devotees, and they're refusing to accept. But if we serve the pure devotees, then he gets the chance to serve the devotees, because through the devotees, when we serve the pure devotees, he serves the devotee through. Serve us through the devotee.
It fulfills his purpose.
Yes, it fulfills.
It's very
his
pleasing
purpose.
to Krishna.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much. What else? Angelo.
I heard you mention that the more one makes advancement, the more humble they become, and they feel themselves insignificant, and how they can improve more in their devotional life.
Yeah. And there's a description by Narada Muni in the Srimad Bhagavatam about this proportionate increase in dainya, or utter humility, as one's advancing towards prema. There's this devotee has a sense of utter humility. And then he recommends that one cultivate that. And that, of course, that always leads into a discussion about what that means. Should you become a pushover in this world and simply allow people to walk over your head and so forth? It doesn't mean that. Humility doesn't mean loss of self-esteem, but it means more and more that one sees oneself as the servant and not the center. And it's a relief, actually, to see one's real position, that I'm actually not the center, Krishna's the center. And when one surrenders to that existential reality, one becomes fulfilled, actually. There's a fulfillment in this utter humility and a great satisfaction. Whereas in lack of self-esteem, one is invested so much in the ego, in one's sense of, I am the center. And then one's disappointed. One simply says that, I'm very low, but is disappointed and is feeling, disappointed for not being in center and unhappy. So humility actually is the first symptom and the first process that Krishna mentions for connecting with transcendental knowledge. Amanitvam, adamvitvam are the first two, humility and pridelessness. Open one to the possibility of allowing Krishna's grace. And I was thinking this morning, while chanting japa, how Lord Chaitanya, in his expression about the holy names in the Shikshashtakam, says, Durdaivam idrisham ihajani nadaragaha. That I'm very unfortunate, because although this is the direct process, I'm connecting with Krishna personally through his name, that I don't have any attachment to it. I give it up at any second and walk away and do something else. How unfortunate is that? He says, I must be cursed. And then he gives the solution in the next verse, which is that to become very humble, cultivate this humility, being lower than the straw in the street, and to be tolerant, and to give respect to others and not expect any respect in return. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, there's a section at the last verse in the purport. Prabhupada describes how to make advancement in spiritual life. One must overcome weakness of heart. This weakness of heart means that one becomes attached to matter and then is unwilling, unable to give it up, becomes entangled. So Prabhupada says one must give up weakness of heart. And then he says that in the first 5 verses of the chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how to give up weakness of heart. Actually, I'll just read you that section. Does that resonate with anybody? Weakness of heart? It's a popular topic. I know that because I've talked about weakness of heart several times in classes and seminars, and it always seems really interesting because it's a conundrum. In the last paragraph of the 15th chapter, 20th verse of Bhagavad Gita, while one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of heart. Somebody look up the word surmount. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. What is the first fall down? Why would a living entity desire to lord it over material nature, do you suppose? Give 3 reasons why a living entity would want to lord it over material nature. Bhakti Mike, and then Sundar.
He may have a puffed up ego.
May have a puffed up ego. And how would that lead him to want to lord it over material nature? Unpack that a little bit.
He would think that his possessions belong to him, or he that he's the lord of everything that is around him, his family, his work. He could be like a businessman that's really puffed up, drives a really nice car.
Could we say he has a false ego?
False ego.
We use that, ahankar. There's a way in which he's thinking that there's a possibility for me to actually own and control these things. For instance, in the verse, in the second chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, Jyato vishayam pumsam sangasteshu pajayate. And he uses the word jyato, which means when one contemplates the objects of the senses. And when we look up the word contemplate in the dictionary, you find it has a meaning that indicates that one sees some possibility in actually, when one looks at something, he thinks about it in terms of what he can get from it. So a person in false ego is maybe illusioned that when he or she looks at the world that I can take that for myself. So there's a misunderstanding. 2 more reasons, Sundar?
I mean, one is in delusion that there is happiness and satisfaction that one can achieve from lording it over.
Okay, if you really think there's something in it for you, then why wouldn't you go for it, right? Okay, Cresswell, what were you going to say?
I was saying, okay, if he wants to control everything, that means he wants praise, he wants adoration, and he wants to control everything. He wants to be God.
Okay. Now I'm asking why that might come up for a living entity. If a living entity is not the controller of the material world, why does that come up in his psychology in the first place? Nagar Kirtan?
Causeless rebelliousness.
Okay, where does that come from? If you just say causeless, it's not getting us anywhere. You know, if it's causeless, then we can't do much about it. You want to say more? Although that is some way of describing, sometimes say causeless, this or that, but it kind of leads you to a dead end. Because how are we going to overcome something that's causeless? Okay.
The Acharyas also mentioned that it's caused by ignorance, in a sense.
Okay. Say more about that.
Ignorance of our real position, ignorance of the fact that if we try to control everything, it will be unsuccessful. Ignorance of the pleasure involved in actually being a servant.
But how do you get there in the first place? In other words, yes.
I was going to say false identification with this body. You think you're only this body and matter, and you're not the spirit.
Yeah, but
soul.
why? Why does the living entity get in that position in the first place?
And we are part and parcel of Lord. We have tiny, same characteristics with Krishna. We have.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. Is the fact that Krishna has this quality of being the supreme controller. We're a tiny living entity, so we have the same quality. But because we're tiny, if we look at material, Krishna can glance at material nature and he doesn't get affected. What happens when he glances at material nature? Lord Shiva is manifest. If I glance at material nature, then Jyato Vishayam Pumsam, I make a sangha with it and then she drags me down. Daivahi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duraya. I can't overcome it because I'm tiny. And that impetus might be there to look at it and control it because it's there within Krishna, so we have the same quality, so it's there within us. That's how we could get there to that position. And then become influenced by the after effects. I mean, a human being is smart enough to build a television, use the intelligence to do that, but then he becomes captured by it, ends up sitting 7 hours a day, drool coming out, just looking at the screen. But he gets himself into it, but then he becomes captured by it. Okay. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. So Krishna has desire, we're the same stamp. We have desire also, but if it becomes misdirected out of curiosity or any other thing, then we can be swept away by Maya because we're tiny. Thus, one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of heart is that one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature. He becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. What's the second one? How much can you increase it? How much can you increase your attachment to matter? Huh? Limitless? Until what? Until you realize it's the source of your problems. But you could become more and more and more and more attached, right? If there's no intervention through knowledge or a higher taste, you could go on increasing your attachment to matter. So the second weakness of heart is that one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature. He becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. Oh, I got another note here. So what is it? And what time are the devotees going to be fed? Could you check on that? Okay. Check and see what time. We don't want to starve you all. And then, the problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottam Yoga. So the first 5 verses describe what in the 15th chapter? What's the idea of describing a banyan tree? How does it help us overcome weakness of heart? Pranahari?
Well, it illustrates just how entangled we are in this illusory network of Maya.
But what information do we get from those first few verses that would give us some kind of strength not to become entangled, or to even want to become disentangled? Samyaprash.
Well, it's established that the tree of the material manifestation is a reflection of another tree, the real tree. So by situating ourselves in the real thing, one can become detached from the material reflection.
If someone comes along and tells you, you're getting faked out, you're perfectly happy until someone comes like, hey, you just got ripped off. And they're like, what are you talking about? I want my money back. I mean, we get information that you're looking at the reflection, you're not actually getting the real thing. And then you might look at things a little bit differently. And you might understand what the cause of your constant frustration is. So this morning we sang the Guru Puja, we sang some bhajans by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we recited the Brahma Samhita, we recited the Sri Upanishad, the Upadeshamrita, 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam, the Mangalacharana from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anything else? Guravashtakam early in the morning at 4:30 a.m. And we've heard Bhagavatam, several verses. And now I'm very happy to announce that it's time for prasadam. And I'm not sure what the arrangement is, but we'll find out in a moment. Where are they going to serve prasadam? Okay. They're serving where? There's not enough room for everybody there, is there? Okay, it's a nice day outside. You can have a picnic. Sharira vijja jodendriya tahika jive vele bishaya shagore Karma jivayati lobo moisu durmati takitita katita samsare Krishna Bora Doyamoy Kori Bare Jiva Jai Shaprashad Anna Dilo Bahar Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Guna Gao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nita Paire Ekadina Shanti Pure Prabhu Advaitera Gare Dui Prabhu Bojane Boshila Shakori Ashwadana Prabhu Bole Bhakta Gana Esha Krishna Ashwadhilo Heno Shakashwadane Krishna Prema Aishe Mane Se Preme Koro Ashwadan Jadaburi Parihari Prasada Bhojana Kori Hari Hari Bolo Sarva Jahan Hari Hari Sarvajan Mahabrajare Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sapapunyavatam Rajan Vishwaso Navijayat Prasade Sarvadukanam Handirasyo Pajayate Prasana Chetaso Yashu Bhudipaya Vatishtate Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasadaki Gopremanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Tai Gaur Hari Bol